Are you real? If you're asking this question while watching this video on a device connected to the internet, it means you're watching a simulation. Welcome to the dawn of artificial intelligence. Let's get started. You may have heard people talking about ChatGPT, a computer program that can answer questions based on vast amounts of text. This program was developed by OpenAI, a company that wants to make sure humans benefit from AI. But it's not the only one. Google has its own project called Lambda, and Meta has its own large language model. These programs can read massive amounts of information and write convincingly human-like text. For example, given the text from thousands of books, ChatGPT could generate text that looks like it came from the book. But let's face it, these programs aren't exactly real. They're just repeating patterns they learned from the data they were fed. Now imagine a civilization much more advanced than ours. Let's call them the Silicons. If they had the computing power of billions of today's computers combined and a deep understanding of physics and biology, they could do things we can't even imagine. One day, instead of just playing with data, they decide to take their simulations to the next level. They create realistic landscapes, invent physics and chemistry, create life. They design creatures with brains capable of thought, emotion, and memory. Then they add senses, allowing their creations to experience the world through sight, touch, smell, and sound. They populate their digital world with trillions of creatures and watch as they interact with each other and their environment. But the Silicons don't stop there. They also create the laws of nature, the fundamental principles that govern the behavior of the universe. Things like gravity, electromagnetism, and nuclear forces. And they make these forces incredibly precise. So precise that their digital creatures wouldn't even realize they were living in a simulation. This may seem like a far-fetched idea, but it's not as crazy as it sounds. The reason we're able to experience life the way we do is because our brains are incredibly complex machines that process information. And every year, we learn more about how they work. In fact, neuroscientists have figured out which neurons fire when we remember certain events, and even identified some of the molecules involved in making new memories. So if our brains are just pieces of biological hardware, it seems plausible that advanced civilizations could recreate the same thing. Now, if you're paying attention, you might be thinking, wait a minute, if we're just sophisticated computer programs, does that mean the world around us isn't real? Well, that's exactly what philosopher Nick Bostrom wondered in his paper called, Are We Living in a Computer Simulation? He pointed out that if creating realistic simulations becomes possible, there would be so many simulations that the real world could become a tiny minority. This means we might actually be more likely to live in a simulation than in reality. But there's another possibility. Maybe our world isn't a simulation. Maybe it's a creation of some higher intelligence, something like an advanced civilization. Some scientists even think that the universe itself is the simulation. They point to the fact that at the smallest scales, reality isn't smooth and infinite. It's pixelated. They also point to the fact that the universe follows elegant mathematical equations, as if it's running on a code base. And there's a cosmic speed limit, the speed of light. Nothing can go faster, almost as if it's the maximum processing speed in a computer system. If this is all true, then it raises some important questions. If we are living in a simulation, who created it and why? Is it possible that there are other universes outside of our own? And if so, are there other versions of us living in those universes? There are no easy answers to these questions, but that hasn't stopped people from trying to find them. Some believe that the universe is actually made up of multiple layers, each one more real than the last. In this view, we're living in the least real layer, and the only way to reach the most real layer is to die. That might sound depressing, but it doesn't have to be. Some believe that the most real version of ourselves is waiting for us in the next layer, a place where we can finally be free. Others take the opposite view. They believe that if the universe is a simulation, it's just a way for the creators to keep tabs on us, to make sure we behave ourselves. In this view, there's no afterlife and no escaping the simulation. So if you're in a simulation, you might as well enjoy it. After all, it could be the only one you ever get. Now, we want to hear from you. Do you think we're living in a simulation? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. And if you liked this video, please share it with others. Who knows? Maybe they'll discover the truth about the simulation and save us all.